All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to One Soccer. I'm your host for today, Josh Deming, joined by my colleague Alex Gange Ruzik. And Alex, today we have three separate but very exciting topics to talk about today. We have our U20s going undefeated and a lot of storylines there, a lot of exciting young dual nationals I'm very excited to talk about. Hopefully you guys are in the chat as well. Another Canadian side that went undefeated in the group stage was our Canadian women, who obviously had a very successful group stage and going on to the quarterfinals of the Women's Gold Cup. And then finally, we're going to talk a little CONCACAF Champions Cup action with Calgary, who unfortunately didn't follow suit with the other Canadian sides and have been bounced out 6-1 on aggregate. We might touch a little bit on Forge and the Whitecaps as well, depending on what the timing is in this stream. But Alex is now gone. I think he's having some issues with StreamYard, so it is just me for the time being. But welcome, guys, to the stream. Alex will be back in a second, and we're going to start with our men's U20s. Because in the three matches that we played, we had 15 goals scored, 0 goals conceded, and have moved on to the tournament this summer. There's a lot of big takeaways I had from the tournament. I was very, very impressed. The biggest one for me is the fact that this was an opportunity to get some of our young talent together and especially focus on some dual nationals where we got introduced to some spectacular ones. And one that stood out to me was Santiago Lopez, who honestly, full disclosure, was a player I had no idea was on the Canadian radar whatsoever. He plays for Pumas, like the reserve team, but he's had some minutes in Liga MX this season so far, and he looked like a talent. He was absolutely sensational. I loved everything about his game. And I want to start there because there was more than just the fact that, one, he looks like a very technically gifted player. He was fun to watch on the ball. Some of the passing, the body of work that he had was impressive. But he brought a little bite to his game as well. And there's two big points that I wanted to take a look at. The one was after a rash challenge. You saw that aggression, and he went and he shoved the opponent and was, not impressed what he did. And it just kind of shows, he's a team player. He likes the group of guys he's playing with. He's got no problem sticking up for them. And then on top of that, there was a penalty that he was clearly supposed to take, but ended up giving up to be able to give a hat trick to his teammate as well, which is a very unselfish thing to do. You've seen plenty of times players fighting over penalties going forward. And, for a young player too, who you're trying to show your mark here on this national team, to give up a penalty when you were supposed to clearly take it just because a player got the opportunity to get a hat trick shows that, again, that you care about your teammates, that you're buying into this program. There's just so much I liked about Lopez throughout this tournament. He was absolutely my player to watch. As Alex returns, I think. Alex, how are you doing? I can't hear you. You are muted, but hopefully once you unmute.
I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me.
I can't hear you. Alex is back. You just missed me go on about a 3-minute rant on Santiago Lopez because, like I mentioned, I loved everything about his tournament. We're beginning, Alex, with the U20s. Like I just said, 3 games played, 3 wins, 15 goals scored, 0 conceded. A lot to discuss, but I wanted to highlight basically Lopez to begin with, mainly because, you and I talked about it a little bit, and like I said, full disclosure, I can't pretend that I knew about him. Because of the roster drop, I found out that this was a player that was eligible for Canada, but I was excited because he's been playing professional minutes in Liga MX this season. He has played for the Mexican U18s, and he just looked like a very exciting profile. But then to see what he did over these 3 matches really got me excited. Not only the technical level, which I think he's at, his movement on and off the ball, his passing, his finishing, obviously, has been impressive. But more than that, he brought a bite, which I really liked. I liked the fact that after an aggressive tackle, he went at the opposition, gave him a big shove, stood up for his teammate, and kind of shows that he's ready to be there and he's ready to play for this national team. And then on top of that, which I thought was a very selfless move, is that he clearly was supposed to take the penalty. When there was a foul, he grabbed the ball. It looked like it was him, but the hat trick is up for his teammate. He was debating, I think, a little bit maybe what to do, but you don't usually see that. He gave the ball away. Hat trick was secured, and it just was an awesome move. And everything he did throughout this tournament, I thought, from his game itself and just those little extra things, made him a player that I desperately hope one day will be capped for this national team, because he was just, for me, it was one of the players to watch. What did you make of Lopez? Because like I said, I know you and I talked about him a little bit before the tournament, but he exceeded my expectations.
100%. I agree with you. And look, just a note, just because you mentioned the penalty, this is something I've noticing lately with commentary. So it's not with you, but it's more just watching some of the commentary on games. I think what we've seen a lot lately in modern football is teams are realizing the value of just having a guy who picks up the ball and stands and like takes the abuse from defenders, and then the quote unquote actual penalty taker steps up and takes it. So for what it's worth, maybe he just knew, okay, let me take the ball, let the guys try to rattle me. Tavio Ciccarelli steps up and take it. So that's what I'll say for that, but that's just more of an aside.
Quickly, Alex, I agree 100%. You've seen it all the time. They're standing over it because that way people are coming and yelling at them, trying to distract them. But Ciccarelli was going like, I don't know if you noticed that, like almost
he wanted it. He was.
So that was how I interpret it. You may be right, because like you said, that's a strategy. You hold the ball, you get screamed at, and then all of a sudden someone scoops in and does it. But to me, just the immediate reaction, he knew he was on a hat trick, and Ciccarelli's just like, come on, please guys, please, let me get the hat trick. That's what it looked like to me. So regardless if he did or didn't, it was still a great move from Lopez. And I'm gonna pretend that Lopez was the assigned penalty taker. I kind of have a feeling he was, but I get your point, Alex, 100%.
Oh no, 100%. It's more of an aside, because it was on my mind because I was watching a game the other day and someone picked up the ball and the commentator was like, "Oh yeah, they're gonna take it." And I'm like, "Are you sure?" Like, it's funny note, but yeah, I bet you I can imagine if we're gonna reinvent that dialogue, Ciccarelli's probably looking at Lopez like puppy eyes again, and Lopez, based on the confidence he had, he just probably gave him a little wink, like, "Don't worry, I got you." And certainly he did. And look, that's all that to say. I think those were the intangibles that really surprised with Lopez, because on paper, there was a lot of tangible that stood out, right? Like, he was playing professionally. We've said it time and time again. I think those playing professionally are going to have a huge edge in these youth tournaments, just because they're competing day in, day out against adults, against men, at the top of their craft, especially when you're out at a club like Pumas. For my money, one of the best clubs in Mexico over the last few years. That's a great environment to already be in, to already have Liga MX minutes under your belt. And so we knew the tangibles were going to be there. We saw it in the games. He's got a wicked right foot on him. He's got a good passing range. He's got, some creativity, some spark around him. His game as a number 9, there's a lot to like. That's not surprising. That's, a mix of his quality. That's also a mix of the pro environment he's in to get that out of it. Where he really impresses, where I agree, with the intangibles. Okay, he can score goals. Yeah, he can be a nuisance in the box. But man, it was that, like you mentioned, the leadership, to want to step up and give a penalty away to a teammate, to stand up for his teammates in moments where they're getting, tackled. He was right there. Heck, when he scored this goal, the bit of the cheek too, to go celebrate against the away fans. Let him know, like, yeah, I'm that guy. I just scored this goal with Trabuzzi. Just roofs it in the top corner from a tight angle. You see right away, he runs to the crowd, riling them up. For him, it's just another Liga MX game. Look at him struggling. Like, who do you think I am? This is what I do. I think those sort of intangibles, that's that confidence. It's that borderline, like, almost cockiness of, I know how good I am and I'm going to show you. Sometimes you need that from young players, because for a lot of these guys, it's not talent that's an issue. Like, you got guys playing at top European academies. You got guys already playing professionally at 16, 17, 18. But it's okay, how do you get the most out of that talent? How do you use it? And I think Lopez, what we saw, he knows his abilities, he's confident in them, and that really allowed him to thrive, because his leadership was immediately a big asset.
I just want to take a look at Alex. Look at the take right there. That is what impressed me most about this goal. Look at right into his stride, touch, sets himself up perfectly. No one's touching that. It looks, he made it look easy, but like right there, that touch to just outside of the foot, put it directly into the route he's going, and then just to hammer it one time. It was just, for me, I was like, oh man, like, I've been talking him up a little bit before the tournament without even really watching him. And then to see what he did throughout the tournament is incredible. But I mean, whether it's coming up through the academy over in Mexico, I mean, this kid's got technical ability, and I think that goal was absolutely fantastic. I'm going to try to find the penalty too, Alex, just to have some fun, to see what Ciccarelli did. And you guys can do the debate to see who, if you think that Lopez was supposed to take it, or if Ciccarelli was, for some fun. But let me know, guys, in the comments us what you thought about the U20s. We're going to focus on U20s right now. Then we're going to move over to the Women's Gold Cup and then end with some Concacaf Champions Cup. So we have a question coming in. And who are your standouts this round? And who would you add for the next round that we're not thinking about? So I'll start first. I mean, I just went on a long tangent. I think that Lopez absolutely deserves that. A couple other players that stood out to me. Obviously, Miles Morgan had a solid tournament. I feel like he, to me, looks like a proper number 9. He's at the Brentford Academy right now. There's a couple fans were a little confused of where he was. He's with TFC, but he's over in England right now. He stood out to me. Kamani Stewart-Baines, I thought was impactful coming off the bench. I liked what Kamani Stewart-Baines did throughout these 3 games more than like Diallo did, who was the kind of like the 2 players that were kind of going at the same position. He impressed me quite a bit. I thought Biello had a pretty solid game. I thought Costa was a little quiet, but just consistent. And those are, I mean, James Cameron I thought was good as well. I mean, it's hard to complain. Everyone was fantastic. 15 goals scored, 0 against. This was a very well organized side. It looked great. But for me, if I'm going for top 3, Lopez is my number 1. I don't know. Badwell was pretty good too. I don't know. It's tough. Alex, you go. I'm gonna look for the
for
Badwell.
For sure. I think looking at the list of names, it was more of an attackers-based tournament. It felt like, just because I think the level of opposition, the defenders were never really put under pressure. Look, I definitely think the defenders deserve a shout, because it felt like anytime there was ever moments of, the other team's coming close to scoring, they really did well to shut it down before it even got to source. And I think that's encouraging. It's not surprising. I think you look at this U20 cycle, heck, you look at the U17 cycle. These teams are usually good enough to defend. They've got defenders. That's usually where Canada's doing a good job at the youth level of producing defenders. That was something where I looked at his strength, right? Lazar Stefanovic, he's already played pro minutes. Adam Perlman. Ethan Schilt-Brown really impressed as well defensively. But the big question was goals. And I think it's interesting because I asked Andrew Olivieri after this 3rd game. So I asked him, look, you scored 15 goals, you conceded 0. Which of those stats makes you happier? Sometimes coaches are like, oh yeah, I love the clean sheets. Like, give me clean sheets all day long. His answer was actually, it surprised me. He said, look, I know this team can defend. A lot of these guys are from the U17s. The U17s could defend. Where our issue was goals. This team was scoring goals for fun in this camp. He said for him, that was exciting. So yeah, naturally, a Lopez stands out, scores, I think in the end it was 3 goals, 1 assist. Kevon Tavernier, who already has a pro goal for Forge in the Champions Cup this year, he scores a pair. Tavio Ciccarelli gets a hat trick. Miles Morgan scores. I think that's exciting, especially when Umar Diallo, someone who was highly regarded heading into this tournament, feels like he didn't fully catch his stride. It feels like he has a bit more to give. Kamani Stewart-Baines was also excellent. So yeah, it was really a tournament for the forwards. Jesse Costa as well, doing well to supply them. So I think to answer the question, definitely a lot more of the attackers. But to answer the second part of African's question, who would we add for the next round? I think because of that, I think the big thing that stood out was the midfield. That was one time where the rare moments where Canada did struggle, it felt like they were just not linking the ball from mid to front as well. I think that Biello-Badwall pair in that 3rd game was when they're at their best, but in the other games when they're kind of split up, there was a bit of a struggle. I do wonder if it would make a lot of sense to bring in a Kadeem Kane at Forge. I was really surprised he was left out.
Look at that question, Alex.
He's eligible. So I think, yeah, there you go. Vincent Alvarado gave the shout. So shout out to that, Vince. I'd agree. I'd put Kadeem Kane because I do wonder if against top oppositions, here you can get away with the 4-4-2. That was essentially a 4-2-4 with how attacking Canada was. But against the top teams, there were a few moments where I thought, Canada might have got exposed in transition against a better team. Maybe having a 3rd midfielder and going for like a Badwall, Biello, Kane trio, I think could really shore up those issues. Because especially you can probably get away with some sort of 3. I think the question is, where do you put Costa? How the heck do you figure out the front line? But I definitely think the midfield is something I'd look at heading into qualifiers. Can you bring in like a Kane? Can you look at some of the other options? Maybe you bring in a Defougere if of course you can, and then that maybe frees up because Stefanovic can play as a 6, it looks like. So maybe you bring in a Diffuser and that frees up Stefanovic to play as a 6 as well. So that was the one area of concern I did have.
That's funny. That's exactly where I was going to go. And yeah, Vincent, I was a little surprised as well that Kane wasn't included, but I wanted to focus a little bit on Stefanovic because I noticed in the first match, Canada defended naturally in a 4-4-2. Stefanovic dropped back and they made 4-4-2 easy defending. A lot of teams do that, but with the ball, I found it very fascinating that the two left back, right back, they tucked in. Stefanovic stepped into the midfield and they played basically in a 3-5-2. You saw Diallo or Stuart Baines basically as that left wing back kind of role, and you had your two strikers with Morgan and Lopez. So I kind of thought it was like Stefanovic was on the ball a lot, and I liked the way he just very naturally stepped into the midfield, made that midfield 3, and then was able to step back into the back. Where do you want to see Stefanovic going forward? Do you like him more in the back, or do you think if Luc de Fougerolles was able to come into this side that he would move up to the midfield, and then who would you maybe drop? Because I thought Badwell had a very, very good tournament as well. Biello impressed me. That screamer as well. I didn't know he had that in his back pocket. That was a beautiful goal. I'll try to pull that one up next. But I like Stefanovic. I feel like he is in this starting 11, even with some potential additions that we're able to add for the summer. I just don't know exactly where he's going to fit. Because I liked when we were on the ball. I think he's very good on it. So when he stepped up in the midfield, it really rounded out a proper 3, but he can also do it at the back. So I'm curious because for me, I'm leaning towards if de Fougerolles came in, that would put Stefanovic up, and then I'd probably see Biello drop to the bench.
Yeah, it's tough. I think it really what I'd like to see is depend on the opponent. It also, some games you're going to need a bit more attacking oomph in the midfield. And again, I think Badwall and Biello, they can help provide that. If you can have them underneath Acosta, you're going to get a lot of attacking if that's your midfield trio, right? Like a little 3 of Biello, Costa, Badwall, then you have a front 3. Maybe, you see a Stuart Baines or Diallo on the left, as we saw, Lopez leading the line. On the right, you can have a Cavan Tavernier. You can have, any of the other options. Of course, you can't forget Miles Morgan, etc. Like, I think that's kind of the way to go. Heck, some games you can probably get away with 4-4-2. But yeah, I think in some of these bigger games, if you're going to play US, you're going to play a Mexico, you're going to play some of these other teams, I'd like to see Canada be a bit more solid in the midfield. Because I think that's an area where, for example, at the World Cup too, they were in the U17s, of course, they're playing a bit of a 4-4-2 with Badwall and Biello, and it put a lot of pressure on that pair. So that's where I could see a Stefanovic playing as the 6. But if it is Costa, Biello, and Badwall, then maybe Stefanovic drops and plays alongside a de Fougerolles, and Perlman drops to the bench. I think that's that flexibility that you can have, just being able to make little tweaks in there, and you go from being more on top heavy to bottom heavy to midfield heavy. I think that flexibility would be nice.
Alex, before we move on now to the women, the one more topic I kind of want to touch on, we talked about it a little bit, is Jesse Costa, just because he was the one returnee. I think he's probably one of the most hyped up Canadian youngsters. He wore the armband, he rocked the number 10, he played in a few different roles. I was curious of what you thought about his tournament. I know in the last match we basically played a 4-4-2. We saw him out on the right. I think he mainly kind of featured as an 8. He dropped deep a lot. He wanted to get on the ball as much as possible. I was just curious to see what you thought about his tournament. I didn't think it was as he was good. He wasn't overly flashy. I didn't think he was consistent. I like him a little bit more personally in the middle because I just think he's very, very good on the ball. He's a great passer. There's a few opportunities throughout this tournament where you saw him just make one pass and just completely took 3-4 players out of the mix. But it wasn't, I don't know, and I think he was a little frustrated a couple of times of the opportunities he missed. I think he really wanted to get that one goal where he missed it wide. I can't remember what game it was in, but he was through on goal and he just kind of toe poked it wide, and you could see his frustration just because again, he's the captain. He's the one returnee. I think he maybe expected a little bit more of himself, but overall, I mean, can't complain too much, but he's definitely probably one of the more popular players. So I wanted to get your thoughts as well.
Yeah, look, he's a true 10. I think you can tell. I think there's positives and negatives to that. I think sometimes the negatives, as can be the case with the 10, you can sometimes drift out of games. That's not always on the 10, right? Sometimes you're in between the lines, the ball isn't finding you. That's always the toughest part with 10s in the modern game, is how can you be more involved? But I did like that he was always willing to drop a little deeper, get stuck in. And where the positive side of him, his ability, where I say he's a pure 10, like you mentioned, he had that ability to pick out a moment of magic with his final pass. Like some of those balls he was playing, when he'd get it, and oh, he's gonna pick that final pass. 'Cause look, sometimes not all the forwards had that. There were a few times where Canada could have played the extra pass in the box, and they had a lot of shoot heavy forwards, which it's not a bad thing. Look, there's a reason why they scored 15 goals. You have guys like Morgan, Chicharelli, Lopez, Diallo. They all want to shoot the ball. Stuart Baines, although he had a pretty nice assist in that third game. Whereas Costa, you could tell he wants to pick out that final pass. He has the ability to. So I think that's very intriguing, because I think in some of those bigger games in the championships this summer, where you're playing a tough defensive team, you only get one moment. I would really trust him to have that moment with the ball at his feet. But of course, the thing I'll always say for tens is, how can he get involved more? How can he get on the ball more and provide more chances for him to play that killer ball? Because yeah, that's right. There's like the first game, for example, he had 2 assists. He had 2 great assists. But also there were large moments of the game where he wasn't there. You're kind of wondering, what was Costa on the field? And then he'd show up with the assist. You'd like to see that more often from him. That's more of a compliment to his ability to play that pass.
Yeah, I think 4-2-3-1 as the 10, like kind of like you said, would be perfect. I was not crazy about him in like a 4-4-2 out wide. That's just not his strength. But before we move on, Vincent said Biello surprised me. Seems a shame though. There's so much logjam in the midfield for Montreal. I don't see a path for him. Yeah, maybe an opportunity on loan somewhere. He's a talent. Can't remember who said it, but I saw a video. It might have been one of the one Soccer Today guys saying, like, his dad is obviously Canada's coach right now, but this is a talented young kid. He deserves every opportunity that's coming his way, and he had a very positive tournament. I wanted to ask a question for you guys before we move on. Which Canada U20 player were you the most impressed with? Luke Carrier already said Lopez. And Alex, we're going to move on quickly, but I want you to give me a defender, a midfielder, and a forward that stood out the most to you throughout this tournament. I'm going to go first, and I'm going to try to make you not take mine. So you gotta think on the spot very quickly here. For me, at the back, like I said, I'm going to go with Stefanovic. I just liked his ability to move into the midfield, back into the back four. Very good on the ball. Help keep clean sheets. He was pretty sensational. I thought there was a chance he might have been the captain for this tournament, but obviously it went to Jesse Costa. I'm not going to go with Costa in the midfield. I'm going to go with Badwal. I liked everything about his game. His ability to track back, win balls, play passes. He's a true box-to-box midfielder. He was a player that Alex highlighted before this tournament. I believe in our players to watch videos. And Alex, you nailed it. I was very impressed with him. And then going forward, I'm not going to take too much time, but I'm going to take Lopez because, Alex, he's a player that I was highlighting but without even seeing him, and he exceeded all my expectations. He's a player to watch for sure. So, Alex, your 3 players before we move on here.
Yeah, for sure. I think to start at the back, a lot of tough choices. I'm going to go Christian Greco-Taylor, because I think he was putting in a shift at left back. He had a great assist in the first game. He made some really good tackles too. Like there was a few times where there's transition moments and he would come out of nowhere. He's one to watch just because he played a bunch of Next Pro last year. He had a bunch of quiet pro experience. We weren't maybe talking about heading into the year. The only problem is he currently at the moment is without a club. So I'm very curious to see, does he end up back with the Whitecaps? Because their next pro season is still a while away. Maybe he just ends up signing back with them, or does he make a jump to a CPL? I think he could very much be a valuable U21 minute, guy for a team that needs left back depth. So I really like Greco-Taylor in the midfield. You said Badwal, right?
I did. I saw your guy, but he impressed me. I really liked what he did throughout this tournament.
I just wanted to make sure because I heard B and I was like, is it Badwal, Biello? Yeah. Well, I'll pick the other one. I thought Biello really impressed, and I think it's tough for him. I think you have to acknowledge how tough it is for him because he's carrying the Biello last name. First off, that's the last name that, in terms of playing career, has all sorts of legacy with Montreal and all sorts of legacy with Canada. That's tough for a young kid to be like, oh yeah, your dad, he was a legend for club and country when in his playing days. He was such a good player back in his day. That's tough for a youngster to carry, right? And then especially add in now the pressure. Oh yeah, your dad is the national team coach. There's going to be calls of, oh, do you even deserve this opportunity? Are you getting it because your last name? Well, one way to kind of push away those doubters is just to go out and ball and to perform. I think if he's going to keep scoring the goals like he did that you showed earlier from outside the box, he's going to have some of that assist he had in that third game where he just went box to box, completely dogged his way through and then played the ball. If he's going to get stuck into tackles, if he's going to show all those sides of your game, that's one way to win some of the fans. And I noticed online that he was winning over some new fans with the way he was playing. And then up front, yeah, lots of good choices. But I'll go with Miles Morgan because I agree. I just, for someone to come kind of out of the radar as he did, you can't teach some of those finishes that he had. Like the first goal he scored against Trinidad and Tobago, the way he had the intelligence to sneak in behind on Badwell's cross and just finish that home one time. I was like, ooh, that's a professional, well-experienced finish. And I think as well in the first game, the hat trick he scored, there were some good, tidy one-touch finishes in there. You can't teach that. So I definitely think Miles Morgan could play a big role in the qualifiers, especially if they can get the qualifiers for the World Cup. Sorry, if you can get him some service.
Because I do want to show his goal just before as well, because I thought it was just a very, very well taken goal. Let's get it up. It reminded me just like, a proper striker. It's technique that he makes look way easier than it actually is. But we'll take a look at it, and then we're going to move on to Gold Cup action.
Don't forget this cross from Jeevan Badwell. I was a bit surprised. You're number 8, and you're crossing like a winger. That was nice to see.
No, it was well worked too, to open up the opportunity. A lot of good ball players on this team, Alex. But look at this. Like,
Morgan immediately on it.
Yeah, like he makes it look so simple.
That's a tough finish, right? Most guys might take a touch. Most guys might try to put their boot through. But he's like, no, I have the chance. I'm just gonna guide it in the corner, and that finish stood out to me. Oh, okay, like that's a confident number 9 who knows what he's doing. So clearly something going on at the Brentford Academy that worth keeping an eye on.
All right, Alex, that is enough U20 talk. We are moving over to Gold Cup action, where our women basically almost topped, I guess, what the men did. The men had a little bit more goal differential, but they were 3-0-0 in the group stage, topped their group, and had 13 goals scored, 0 against. A lot of storylines throughout this group stage as they have another match against Costa Rica, which is a little unfortunate. I was kind of hoping, we have a different opponent for the quarters, not the same team we just played, but if they put in the same type of performance, I think a semifinal spot potentially against either a very tricky Colombia side, or of course the Americans, will be very difficult as well. So Alex, let's begin with the first match, 6-0 against El Salvador. I know that happened back on the 22nd, so basically an entire week ago, but thinking back to that match, let's talk about a couple of things that maybe stood out to you.
Yeah, look, it was a good start. It was a perfect start to what was a good group stage. And it was nice to see Canada put 6 on the board. It's funny because it felt like they could have put up 9 or 10, so it was almost a bit disappointing. Just because, look, I think first, I love this new format from Concacaf, and I'd love to see them continue to experiment with this in more tournaments. I love the idea of being seeded based on your group stage performance, because it basically, forces teams to have to, incentivize all 3 games. There's no risk of, it's game 3, we got yellow cards, etc. Look, you can do that. You just risk potentially playing a harder team in the knockouts. And I love that, you're seeded 1 to 8. Canada was able to claim the top seed with their performances. And it was good that it didn't cost them in the end, that they missed a few chances in game 1. You wonder, some of the other teams, they aren't going to be so wasteful. But ultimately, they got the job done. Some key players stepped up, like a Chloe Lacasse, Adriana Leon, even Jordan Huydema had some good moments in that game. Olivia Smith really impressed. It was great to see. So overall, that's what you wanted, because we said it heading into this tournament. This tournament was about auditions for newer faces. I think you can say a few players really stepped up in that regard, but it was also like getting performances, getting goals, getting wins, being confident. And I think they also ticked all those boxes.
Yeah, this 3-4-3 system, Alex, you and I talked about it a lot when we felt like Bev needed to make a move. And I'd say the team's been pretty flawless with this new system going forward. And the beautiful thing I've really liked to see is different players coming in and out of that system. Do you remember, Alex? I want to say it was just after the World Cup. You and I were scratching our heads and saying, this team is built to basically be in a back 3. Like, we need to make the change. We saw Bev do that, and then pretty much from there on in, I think this team has been thriving. I'd say that in terms of power rankings right now in this tournament, clearly they're at the top. And then going back to my point about players coming into different roles, Chloe Lacasse featured here as a right wing back, and I loved watching X and debates whether it should have been Ashley Lawrence or who should be out there on the right-hand side. Well, it's a surprise. It's Chloe Lacasse, and I feel like she was the star of that first match. She's got 3 assists right now on the tournament. She looks sharp. Now, she played 45 minutes in the second game and didn't play at all in the third game. So I guess going back to that opening match, because like I said, she was the big storyline. Do you expect her to feature in this upcoming quarterfinal match? And if so, do you see her fitting somewhere into that front 3 on the right, the left, or do you see her in this new kind of right wing back role?
I think for this moment, I think we'll likely see her at wing back, just because again, that's kind of where I think this is the game for it. I think Gabrielle Carl's really had a good tournament at wing back, and her stock has certainly gone up. But I think Lacasse, I think we see her at wing back, and yeah, it's positive to see that Lacasse can play in those different roles. She's been so good up front. I think really based on what we knew from Priestman the last 4 months, I think you're starting front 3. If the Olympics were to start, a week ago, it was Lacasse on the left, Leon on the right, Michelle Prince up front, right? But now Lacasse potentially being an option further at wing back opens up doors, right? All of a sudden, maybe you play Janine Becky a little higher up the field when she's back and healthy. It allows you to throw in a Jordan Hoytema as a starter as she continues to score goals. Look, goal in the opener. She scored a great header yesterday, against Costa Rica. Hoytema has quietly been scoring a lot of goals lately for Canada, so having her start would also be nice. So yeah, it's good to see someone like Lacasse going to wing backs. I think it opens up doors for other players to step in up in the attack, right? It potentially opens the door for Olivia Smith to start, and she's been great.
Olivia Smith,
so I think she's been excellent. So I definitely think Lacasse playing a different role like that and thriving is good, because it opens up doors for more names to step up into that front 3, and especially now with Michelle Prince unfortunately picking up the injury that she did, the calf injury game 1, that opens up even more doors for auditions up front. Because look, I think based on the hierarchy right now, it feels like Prince is a pretty good lock to make that Olympic squad, just of how good she's looked at that 9. But it's been nice to see a bit more Hoytema, Smith. Heck, we saw a cameo for Aladou in the first game. And I think it's been good to see a bit of Vian as well, and see what some of these options are in that front 3.
Don't you worry, Alex. Olivia Smith is definitely on the agenda for today. So is Adriana Leon. I mean, we can't skip past that. I believe 5 goals, 2 assists, 7 goal contributions in 3 games. She's been absolutely lights out. I wanted to start with Lacasse and kind of work my way up. But there's a player in between that I want to talk about, and you touched on her a little bit. That is Jordan Hoytema. But it wasn't exactly what you were talking about. Now, obviously, she's tall. She's a striker. We're kind of expecting her to score goals. She's got 2 in this tournament, which is great to see. But Alex, what I've noticed throughout this tournament so far that I don't feel like a lot are talking about is Hoytema's distribution. And this is a perfect example. And there's another clip I want to show. But I feel like her hold-up play and her passing right now as a number 9 has really impressed me. So take a look at this goal right here. So the first pass, Jordan comes in, nice little touch, sets herself up, and look at that ball. And then look at the run. And it doesn't seem like a lot, but like it's that ball that she starts, and then she ends the play. And now I need to find her other one, because and then you go ahead, Alex. Talk about that clip right there, and I'm gonna find the other one. That's Leon's goal, I believe.
I think it was the assist she had.
For Canada,
there you go.
Never mind. It's the very next goal. So sorry, let me just continue on. Look at this ball. Like, I didn't know she had this in her game, but that right there is a perfect ball. And then, she didn't get the assist on it, but that goal happened directly because of her. So her kind of drop in play, her link up, I think she's just adding another, element to what makes her starting to become a pretty good number. She's a good number 9, but become a better number 9, adding that passing, and then obviously being able to score goals. So Alex, I'm sorry, I've been kind of cutting you off there. So I just wanted to add that, because I just feel like it's such an important part of her game. And those 2 assists back to back, are 2 goals, not really 2 assists, have really impressed me. So go ahead, Alex.
Yeah, no, Jordan Hoytema is really coming to her own, and I think it's been nice to see, just because there's always been so much pressure on her. She came in at 15. There's all this, you're the next Christine Sinclair, which is never fair for any youngster, right? Like, all right, yeah, here you are. You're gonna become the next all-time greatest international goal scorer. That put a lot of pressure on Hoytema, especially on the goal side of, she needs to be scoring. First off, she's doing a pretty darn good job of scoring. Already up to 20 goals in her career. She's already quietly creeping into the top 10, top 20 of all-time goal scorers Or I think, yeah, top 20 already. Like, she's scoring goals. She's still only, 20, 22, 23. But yeah, I think what's been nice to see over the last few years is that all around game of all of a sudden, oh yeah, she can hold up the ball. She can be a real asset with the ball at her feet and play those through balls. Her movement has become a real big asset. This ability to know when to kind of almost ghost to the back post. Because look, I think people know she likes to go to the back post. She has the height. But what we're seeing now is this ability to kind of find her way there and get open and win these uncontested headers. Heck, that run she made for her goal against Costa Rica, such great awareness just to time the run and drift behind the center backs and head it home. I think we're really seeing her come in her own because she's always been a good finisher. She's always been a good poacher, but now we're seeing her bring all those skills you need to be a number 9 in the modern game. That threat in behind, that passing, that hold up play. And I think one to put together in a complete package. It's really led to some good performances because look, since the World Cup, she's quietly been one of Canada's top goal scorers. That first, there's been that Lawrence to Hoytema connection that we've seen in the fall. But yeah, for her to add 2 goals already this Gold Cup, it's good to see.
And I'm just looking up the goal. We're going to show her goal. But yeah, I mean, like you said, you want to see her score goals. That is what, she is supposed to be known for. But just the overall game that I've noticed from her and the intelligence to be able to know when to drop and when to make that perfect pass and get into position. And she's just becoming more of a well-rounded striker, which just makes her even more of a threat, especially like you said, Alex, with that height. She's a completely different profile. And I love to see her game continuing to improve. This is the goal she scored last night.
So just look at her movement there on the bottom right of the screen. Fleming gets the ball. Hoytema drifts, just cuts inside, gets on the end of it. Like that's a number 9 right there. I know she got a 9 on her shirt, but that's what you want from her number 9, especially the way she curved her run, kind of almost got on the blind side of the defender, bumped the defender a bit, made that movement. I think it was such a well executed number 9 action there from Hoytema.
I mean, you want to see her, like you always hear, because she is pretty tall, but it is so difficult to defend that, man. When she can get on the wrong side of a defender, she's got the height and she's a good header of the ball as well. Like there's just no chance. I've really impressed her tournament. But Luke Carrier at the bottom of our screen says talk Adriana Leon, and I think we should. We'll go to Olivia Smith after because I'm very excited about this player too. But Alex, this is a statement tournament from Adriana Leon. 3 games played, 5 goals scored, 2 assists, 7 goal contributions. She's scoring for fun. Do you want to at all lead it back to her club career right now? And you and I have talked about change in scenery. Now, anyone who's on stream didn't know we just did this, but we did just talk about it about Ike Ugbo. Now, a bit of a change in scenery as Adriana Leon hasn't always been able to do it at club level. She's gone to Aston Villa. She's, finding, I think, a little bit more of a home there. But despite her club form, she's always really been able to do it for Canada. Are you surprised by just how insane her numbers are and her impressive performances throughout this group stage right now? Does it any connection to what she's doing right now at club level, playing, scoring, getting her confidence going, or is she just her for Canada right now?
Look, for me, honestly, I'm not surprised because it goes back. For me, there's a key date for Leon, and it was Bev Priestman's first game in charge in February 2021. Because since that date, Adriana Leon now has 17 goals in 42 games now for Canada. For context, she had 19 goals in 66 games in her career prior. So she had, 19 goals. Now she has 17 in 24 less games. And the big reason is just Priestman's given her this full confidence. It started as more of a super sub, but now it's really become a starter to go out, be Leon, be dangerous, be such a goal threat. Because, man, I think first off, she might be Canada's best striker of the ball. First and foremost of the players in this group, the way she strikes a football is so pure. It's been funny because I think the broadcast team has referenced it a lot. Bev Priestman keeps calling her just a pure footballer, and I think the way she strikes the football. Look at this penalty, by the way, right? In an era where players these days they stutter and they put it into the low corner. I'm guilty of that myself, but she just puts her boot through it in the top corner. Like, look at the way she struck that. You're not getting that from many forwards, and I think because of the confidence that Priestman's given into her, she's just showing it. Like she's showing that, yeah, you give me time, you give me space in the box, I will punish you and I will put the ball home. And I think there's been this realization of, all right, just let her do that and she will cause problems. So I think it's been nice to see her kind of freed up, given that confidence and given that ability to shine. Because we've seen it for club when her days at West Ham when she was scoring, and now with Villa, you give her minutes, you give her a chance to get opportunities, she will put them away. And man, it's been great to see her just pour in the goals, and for Canada to have someone like her to lean on, that, you know, in the big games that she'll want to get on the end of chances and put them in the net.
I was looking for her other goal that was Olivia Smith. Okay, we're gonna move on to Smith in a sec. But I do want to talk about quickly. Yes, she's scoring goals, but she's also been deadly, and she's been like this for a while from set pieces. Adriana Leon, I think, is one of the best set pieces in women's football, and we've seen it already on this display this tournament. But what I didn't know, or at least what I'm learning, is that she might have a little bit of competition there for, who's going to step over a set piece with Olivia Smith, and that's where we're going to adjust to now, Alex, because Olivia Smith has been so impactful so far this tournament. It's been amazing to see. We know what she's been doing in Portugal right now, but now to see her scoring goals, I should need to get a better angle of this one because it's actually on her very first ever goal. And look at the very here. We're gonna turn off the audio.
Miles onside too, by the way.
Miles onside, but what a ball! What a clever little ball from Lacasse to score her first goal. But she's also had a couple assists in this tournament as well. I believe, don't quote me on it, I believe she got 2 goals, 2 assists in this tournament so far. And considering that she's been, most of her minutes have come from as a sub, I guess. It's great to see just another young Canadian talent who's really breaking it out in this tournament. Look at this little ball right here from Lacasse. Just so clever. And then look at the finish for an 18-year-old. Doesn't care, perfectly placed. And then, like I said, I'm going to try to find a couple of her assists as well. The set piece, I believe, was the one for Kadisha Buchanan. And like I said, just it also helps. Like Canada's a pretty tall side as well. So when you have just quality coming in from either Adriana Leon or Olivia Smith from corners, from set pieces, it makes it so much more dangerous. We saw Zadorsky get 2 headers in this the last game against Costa Rica. We've seen Kadisha get her goal right here, and it's Olivia Smith over it. Do you think that having a player like Smith and Leon in set pieces situations like this is obviously it's obviously going to benefit them, but how much do you think it's going to play come later in the tournament against potentially a United States or a Brazil?
It's huge because the way they deliver that set piece is so tough to defend, because kind of what we've seen a lot of from Jessie Fleming and Janine Becky, and this is a good technique, but we've seen a lot of is floated crosses, and floated crosses are great from corners if you get a flick on, right? Like if you're able to get that flick on the near post, and you're able to redirect it. But what's tough with those floated balls, it's tough to get any sort of headed power, right? If you're trying to score. And I think we've seen that a lot, where sometimes the delivery from Fleming and Becky will be good, but because Canada's a bit static, it's tough to score those. But with the way that Smith and Leon deliver these crosses, especially like the way the whip Smith gets on her shots, just look at this corner, the one you just went by. I mean, you got both.
I'm gonna show. We'll do both quickly. This is the first one.
I mean, this one not so much the way the area was put in. Leon, all Zadorsky had to do was just not at home. But in the other one, I watched that one back. I think the way Smith just whips it on top of Zadorsky. Like, look how far Zadorsky is from she's on the edge of the 6. But again, with the whip, the curl, all Zadorsky can do is stick your head out, and there's so much power on it. She redirects it home, it goes in. Whereas if I think that's a floated cross to the back post, you're not getting a goal like that, right? Because you have to generate all the power as a header. And I think that sort of delivery that Smith can bring is huge. Because look, I think there's definitely value in that floated ball, but I'd love to see Canada use that more for like a flick on. Whereas, man, if you want to just hit those targets like Hoytema, Zadorsky, Buchanan, heck, I bet Jade Rose is a good header of the ball that we haven't seen her use yet. If you're going to want to hit those targets, that whipped ball into the box causes so many issues, and it's been not surprising to see them score 3 goals off set pieces through that from Smith and of course from Leon.
Yeah, 3 very well taken corners, and yeah, just another just another option for them, depending on what set piece they're going for. But yeah, Olivia Smith has got technique when striking the ball, and you love to see it. She's going to hopefully play a big role in the knockouts as well, whether it's coming from the bench or not. Before we move on to CONCACAF Champions Cup action, Alex, we will kind of come up with a projected starting 11, just get you thinking. But we have a question here from Luis, who says, do the last 30 minutes of the Costa Rica game concern you about how the Canadian women's national team matches up against strong pressing teams?
Yes and no, because I think what was fascinating was thanks to the position of the hot mics on the field, around 58 or so, Bev Priestman was caught yelling, "They're pressing us high, let's switch to a 4-4-2." And that was interesting because Costa Rica was pressing in a 4-4-2. And unfortunately, as we saw in the World Cup against Australia, as we saw in the 22 CONCACAF Championships against the US, if you're building out in a 4-4-2 and you're Canada and you're getting pressed in a 4-4-2, it's not going to go very well. And unfortunately, I thought that was a rare misadjustment from Priestman, who for the most part has got her adjustments bang on. Just because I'll say it time and time again, I just don't like the way that 4-4-2 lines up with pressing teams, especially just with how easy it is to press and whatnot. Canada, when they play in that 3, they don't have that issue, because again, with the 3, you create so many more triangles. You're able to bypass a 4-4-2. Teams will have to press you in a 3, which takes away their width, and then all of a sudden that gives you more area to build out through your wing backs. So I personally thought the switch to the 4-4-2 was a bit misguided for that situation. I think there's value for Canada using a 4-4-2, which, to answer this question from Afrikaans, and it was a hot topic yesterday on social media, back 4 or not. I think there's value in a back 4 if you need to shore up and defend a lead and drop deep. But I thought it was a bit of a misadjustment to switch to the 4-4-2 for the build up. Because again, if you want to build up, stay in the 3 100%. It gives you the triangles. Canada has the ball players, and I thought they just looked so out of sorts with that back 4. So to answer Lewis's question, it worries me if that they feel the best way to beat a press is to play in a 4-4-2, because I've been saying it for a couple years now. It will not work. But if this was more of a learning experiment, like, let's see how it looks. If they stick with the 3-4-2-1 with this going forward, I think they should be able to match up against pressing teams, just because what's nice with the 3-4-3 is that if they get pressed high, you have the outlet of the 2 wide players that you can hit it long to. You have the outlet of the wingbacks potentially dropping back. You have the outlet of the 2 midfielders being able to create triangles. I think that should be enough to overcome some of the deficiencies you might get from a team wanting to press you high up the pitch.
There you go. Good question as well. And sorry, I'm just in the background here setting up, Alex, because what we're going to do quickly before moving on, and very quickly, because I do want to talk a little bit about the CONCACAF Champions Cup. We got about a little over 10 minutes left. And we're going to build our projected starting 11 for the Costa Rica match. So Alex will start between the sticks. No surprise, Sheridan, right? That's.
We'll go Sheridan.
Yeah.
D'Angelo's impressed. Love to see me some more D'Angelo. Who knows? Maybe we see D'Angelo in this game after Sheridan got Costa Rica, because I think D'Angelo does bring a bit of distribution in terms of her short passing. But yeah, let's for sake of this, we'll assume Sheridan. But I wouldn't be surprised to see a D'Angelo start on Saturday. So remember that.
Okay, said here first from Alex. Back 3 is where I am very interested to see where you go. As you know, one of my favorite players, and I think she's going to have a bright future, is Jade Rose. On the outside right center back, in terms of ball playing, progressing the ball, breaking the lines, she's everything I like. And I honestly want to see Rose, Gilles, and Cannon. Those are probably 3, but I mean, Gorski and this team just sort of brace for that pieces. It's kind of harsh to maybe take her out. So Alex, I'm curious to see what you would go with. But for me, Mr. Gilles, Alicia Buchanan, Jade Rose are kind of my 3. I'm going to go off what you're going to go with. So what do you want to see for that 3?
Yeah, I think that's the 3 you kind of have to expect, right? I think it's going to be Rose, Gilles, Buchanan as well. It's tough on Zadorsky. She's had some good performances. She's scoring goals. She's defending well. But that's just the nature of this 3, right? Where Rose, she fits this 3 so well. She's such a good passer, but she's so athletic. So she can cover ground, help Ashley Lawrence, right? If she's playing on the right, be more aggressive. Heck, when it was Chloe Lacasse, help Lacasse be more aggressive. And then, of course, Buchanan does the same on the left side with her skills. and then Gilles just holds down that middle as a rock. Something where, yeah, I think because of that, that'll be the 3, and it's tough for Zadorsky, and it'll be interesting to see what ends up happening for the Olympics, if she ends up being an alternative, if she ends up making it in, because yeah, it does definitely feel like at the moment it's Rose, it's Canada are the main 3.
Well, I'm glad you think that. I mean, I know you're a big fan of Jade Rose as well. Like I said, she's definitely a profile they don't have from the back, and I just love watching her on the ball. And when she first came in, remember that one, I think the first assist she ever had for Canada, that run she went on in that perfect ball. I think she got a very bright future. Look at this. Ken agrees. Jade Rose will be captain one day. I like the shout. Remember you heard it. Yeah, remember you heard it here first from Ken. But no, I agree. Yep, all on the same page. That's easy. But now on to the midfield 4, and I guess maybe this was. Yeah, I'm a little curious to see where you're going to go here. I'm gonna try to guess what you're going to go quickly. I'm gonna say Lawrence down the left, Lacasse down the right, Fleming through the middle, along with
Tough choices.
That is I guess the safer picks probably. I feel like you would want to maybe see Awujo, maybe. I'll say Quinn. That's probably what I'd expect. But okay, Alex, take it away. Midfield 4. Who are you going with?
I'm going Lawrence on the right. I just think her delivery
okay.
from the right is just such a huge asset. I'd go Lacasse on the left, just because I think her ability to cut in. Although, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised. Again, I just prefer Lawrence on the right with their crossing. The midfield's tough because I think it's Fleming. What's tough is it just feels like right now Fleming's best partners are either Quinn or Awujo. I think it's going to be Quinn. That Fleming-Quinn partnership has been doing very well. That's not, it's not a surprise there. But I wonder if we see more of Awujo, just because Awujo showed some impressive, ball playing ability. She can get stuck into tackles. Love to see me some Awujo. So you know what, we can stick with that for fun, but I think it'll probably be Fleming and Quinn for sure.
You think it will be Fleming and Quinn is what you would assume, but you want to stick Awujo in there?
Yeah, let's have some fun with it.
I like that. No, I definitely like that. I'm just trying to get the numbers correct because you know me. All right, and now on to the front 3. I'm gonna try to guess as well from what I've seen. I mean, Heidema for sure, Adriana Leon for sure. And then that last spot, I'm trying to think of who you're gonna. Yeah, I guess say Dan Rose. We haven't really mentioned her, but she's looked good. Clarissa Larcy might be a pick. I thought her link-up play was really impressive as well. So I kind of feel like you might go with her. I know you want to see. I'm torn actually. I don't know I'm trying to think of who you're going to say. I think the 2 are locks. Jordan Heidema, Adriana Leon are locks. Evelyn Vienne might be one you want to see, but I don't think she'll start. So I'm gonna go with Clarissa Larcy. That's what I'm gonna go with. All right, who are you going with for your front 3? Did I get it right?
It's tough. I'm gonna go Olivia Smith.
Olivia. I don't know why I didn't say her. I was looking at the list and they had her listed as a midfielder. So I was just looking at the front 3. But yes, I probably would have said that. Backtracking, but okay. Sorry, Alex. Go ahead.
No, I think I'll go Smith just because I think Leon at this point you're not dropping her, she's scoring for fun. Hoydem as well, showing that she can lead the line. It just feels like if we're gonna pick through everything we saw in the group stages, Deanne Rose was a bit quieter than I would have expected. I think Larcy looked really good, and I think she definitely deserves a shout. It just feels like Smith, came in at another level and brings a bit of a different dimension. Because, for example, Larcy, what I really liked with their game at Hacken, watching her there, she's just so good at getting in behind and that speed she brings. Whereas we didn't really see that as much in that 3rd game when she started against Costa Rica. I would have liked to see a little more in behind threat. Whereas Smith has kind of just, brought that immediate drive on the ball. So yeah, I'll go Smith for now, but I think it's close between her and Larcy for a potential start in the
And you want Smith down the right?
Let's do Smith down the left. Let Leon stay in that right position. And I think it makes sense because one thing with Leon, for better, for worse, she is a shoot first player. And that's part of the reason why she's so good at scoring. But I think what's nice, if she's on the right, she can cut inside and almost be a striker and just let Lawrence roam free on that right side. So I think that's kind of why their partnership works so well on that side.
All right, there it is. I like the look of that, and that is, again, probably Quinn in the midfield, but I could see them going with this. And if you're looking at just off the stats, but I mean, it's more than that. It's the eye test as well. You know what these players have done. We've just talked about it, but I mean, like I said, Olivia Smith, I believe 2 goals, 2 assists. Heidemar, again, I also believe has 2 goals, 2 assists. Leon's got 5 goals, 2 assists. These 3 are thriving. Lacasse has got 1 goal, 3 assists down in a wingback kind of role. These are your players who are performing. The back 3 looks good. I really like the look of this, Alex, and I agree with you. I hope this is what we see. I think, like we said, Quinn could slide in there. Maybe Zadorsky just because she had those 2 goals, maybe. But I agree. I kind of doubt it. And then up front, maybe Bev wants to start Smith on the bench because we've seen what she can do off of it. But regardless, that is a pretty strong starting 11. And very quickly, Alex, we didn't leave much time for it, but unfortunately, there's not a ton to talk about. Cavalry in their Concacaf Champions Cup debut lose 3-1 or 3-0 at home, or kind of home, and then go and score their first ever goal in this competition, and then lose 3-1 there. So they lose 6-1 on aggregate. Any quick takeaways you want to have? Learning experience, Bevan scoring a goal, Carducci getting unfortunately beaten for fun. Where do you want to start quickly there?
Yeah, it's just a tough tie for Cavalry, because I think the big thing, I got a chance to go to leg 1 and seeing it in person, and you can see it in leg 2. It's just the fitness, the technical quality, the ability of Orlando was a huge edge in this tie, and that was for Cavalry. I think they had some great moments on the ball. I was surprised for a team in preseason to be moving the ball around as they did on a few occasions, like on their goal. I think really if you're going to look at one thing that really killed Cavalry this tie, was defensive transitions. Like Orlando killed them every time with those balls over the top, those balls out wide, catching Cavalry in behind their wingbacks who are being aggressive, or in leg 1, just the rotations they had. So I think that was the big thing that stood out, those defensive transitions. And overall, I think as well, just how tight things have to be defensively against a team like Orlando. Like, it felt like anytime they'd give an inch, they'd score. And that's tough, because maybe in the CPL they can get away with being a bit more aggressive defensively like they were. But against these top teams, if you're too over aggressive, you commit, you give them the space in behind, you give them the space to cut in, these teams will punish you. And I think that was ultimately the lesson they'll feel, that, look, over the balance of this tie, did this feel like a 6-1 tie? No, I think you could probably say it felt more like I think Orlando definitely would have been good for, 3 or 4 goals. Maybe Cavalry, the 1 is pretty fair. Maybe they get a second. It's still one where Orlando still comfortably wins this tie. But that edge was just, man, every time Orlando got a half chance, they turned it into a full chance. And that's the difference, where those top teams, sometimes they don't even need to get out of gear. They just get their chances. They beat you that way. And that's what Orlando did.
Now, unfortunately for the Canadian sides that were in this competition, Whitecaps, I mean, they had a tough draw. That is what it is. We're not going to touch too much on them. Forge had a very tough draw as well against Chivas. We kind of touched on them, and the Cavs probably had the kindest draw, I'd say. I mean, maybe if the Whitecaps got Orlando City, they might have had a little better of an opportunity. But focusing basically just on Forge and Cavalry, what would you say is the biggest takeaway from, I mean, a 6-1 aggregate and a 5-2 aggregate aren't kind score lines, but they're, like, especially from Forge, you saw some good things. At least they went at Chivas, and you can't deny that. They scored a pretty nice goal as well at home. So is there any takeaways you want to, for any of the fans out there, for any of the Cavs fans and the Forge fans, is there a takeaway out there that they can take into the CPL season and maybe build on despite not getting the result?
Yeah, look, I think, they should be fine in the CPL season. And look, this should give them every motivation to want to return, because I think these experiences are valuable, of just seeing up close and personal what that means. I think Tommy Wheeldon Jr. had a fascinating quote of, I asked him after leg 1, like, you guys were quite aggressive, like, just kind of speak to that. Like, what was kind of the decision making, more just like curiosity? And he had a fantastic answer, as Tommy always does. He said, look, we saw this Orlando team. We saw how they're going to play. We know they're a top team. They're a team that, look, and I'd say they're one of the contenders for this Champions Cup. If they get past Tigres, as they could, they drew them 1-1 last year in aggregate, lost on away goals, they could go on a run. So the way Tommy Wheeldon Jr. saw it is, look, you can go to Orlando You can go a 7-3 or 7-3, right? Just everyone behind the ball, defend, defend, defend. What's the best case scenario there? Maybe a claw, like you're still probably going to lose playing that way, right? You maybe lose 2-0, 3-0 on aggregate. Yeah, it's a bit more respectable. Or he goes out. Cavalry played the exact way they did in the CPL, for better or for worse, right? They were playing that aggressive back three in the first game with Shom dropping from right back into midfield. They had the, Moosey kind of tucking in as a wing back. Like, they were doing a lot of things we see in the CPL. Like, too, we saw them switch to a back five, which they sometimes do in the CPL. What we saw was Cavalry, and I think what was fascinating, because that was the final part of his answer that I found so interesting. He said, look, we have a way of wanting to play our DNA. We want to just go out there and see what it looks like see what kind of mistakes we make, see where teams punish us. Just kind of, again, because it's one thing in theory to be like, oh yeah, we're playing a top team, they're going to expose us here, they're going to expose us there. For players, for coaches, it's a whole thing altogether. Like, oh wow, this is what it looks like in action, in film. When Orlando saw that we were having an aggressive rotation in our right back, they were punishing it every time. And this is what it looks like. So I think for Forge and Cavalry, they went and both played their way. Forge as well, you have to commend them. Up against Chivas, Forge were playing exactly like they do in the CPL. I think because of that, they can take these lessons, apply them, and so that when they return, they know that, okay, maybe in the CPL we can get away with some of our rotations, some of our transitions. Maybe we can be a little wasteful in front of goal because we know we're eventually going to find the chances we need to score. So, okay, this is the level we need to play at. We're going to keep playing our way, because I think long term, yeah, it's going to hurt right now. You're going to get spanked with some of these results, but I think down the road, they're going to take that to heart. So look, I think it's going to be tough for a lot of years, because especially the way the schedule is, it's tough for everyone, especially if the CPL keeps playing in April. You're getting thrust into games against February, and teams that are in form in Liga MX are teams that are going to still be ahead of you in preparation in MLS teams. But I think they're going to learn from this long term, and hopefully continue to just become more and more competitive with each entrance into this competition.
Absolutely, and I was at Tim Hortons Field for the Forge versus Chivas game in the press box. And let me tell you that it was entertaining. Like you said, I mean, I give them full credit for playing their way. Was it the smartest maybe way to win? I don't know, but it made for entertaining football. Fans loved it. The Chivas fans were incredible as well, and it was just a quick little funny story. There was a constant reminders in the press box not to celebrate, because once Chivas scored, a bunch of the Mexican journalists started celebrating, and you hear, please no celebrating in the press box. So when Forge got their goal, there was some good cheers in there as well. So it was pretty fun, but it was a really fun game, and I'm excited to see what both Cavalry and Forge FC can do this season, because I'm expecting both, as usual, to go for the title. So that is all the time we have on today's stream. Alex, a little over an hour, 3 different topics. I had a good conversation. Hopefully you guys in the chat enjoyed this. And if you did, as always, be sure to drop a like on your way out, drop a sub, and we will see you guys soon. Cheers, friends.